remains in the news. That's right. There's no doubt about that. This is another edition of the World Edition. And of course, the Maui wildfires are now seen as the deadliest in modern U.S. history. Maui is facing millions in lost revenue from property that may no longer exist. And the death toll has reached 96, authorities say, as they are still counting the losses. And, those figures may be going up all as well. So definitely that is something that is taking place in the news, and a lot of people have got their thoughts and prayers going to that part of the United States. And all along those lines, of course, there is still the investigation going on with Trump and what is happening in those various trials, and all along those lines. So definitely it looks like the Georgia DA, Fani Willis, is prepared to face off against the Trump team, and she is saying he's going to be very surprised. And Georgia prosecutors have a message, or so they say, showing Trump's team is behind the voting system breach. So that is something that is going on this week as well. A police raid of a Kansas newsroom has raised alarms about the violations within freedom of the press and all along those lines. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out as well, because definitely that is something that is always a concern to those that are in the press. But law enforcement officers in Kansas raided the offices of a local newspaper and a journalist's home on Friday, prompting outrage over what First Amendment experts are calling a likely violation of federal law. The police department in Marion, Kansas, a town of only about 2,000, raided the Marion County Record under a search warrant signed by a county judge. So officers confiscated computers, cell phones, reporting materials, and other items essential to the weekly paper's operation. Local authorities said they were investigating the newsroom for identity theft. According to the warrant, the raid was linked to alleged violations of a local restaurant owner's privacy when journalists obtained information about her driving record. So that is definitely, I'm sure, something that the media will be paying attention to, and we may even be talking about that some more on Media Monday, which will be coming our way at around the 12 o'clock hour and all along those lines. So that's some of what is going on in the world. There's a number of other things that are taking place as well, and we'll get to some of those also and see what folks have got to say. We do have a special guest today as well. Apparently, Ted Cruz is furious that Merrick Garland did exactly what he asked in Hunter Biden case. So there's conversation about whether the Department of Justice has botched the investigation into Hunter Biden. And definitely, like I said, Biden's special counsel reveals that Attorney General Garland is joining the media in circling the wagons to defend the president and his family. So Hunter Biden's lawyers are arguing that the deal to resolve the felony gun charges is still valid, and all along those lines. And speaking of things that can happen that are of a sad note, and sometimes we talk about the kind of silliness of criminals, but sometimes they get away with a loot and get away with a whole lot of loot. And apparently that is what happened in California Nordstrom, because apparently the California Nordstrom was ransacked in a huge flash mob smash and grab. And they is apparently saying that up to 100,000 was stolen in that particular area of Los Angeles, California. So it was a smash and grab type robbery, and apparently 100,000 is what was taken in that particular case. And as it was a flash mob, I'm thinking there were probably several people that were involved. I'm also thinking there were several cameras involved as well. So I'm wondering if they won't round up quite a few of these folks as well, since I do know that a lot of the department stores and a lot of things in that space usually have security cameras. But depending on when they did it and how they did it, might be whether folks get away with it or don't get away with it. But they definitely had the whole flash mob kind of mentality. And like I said, they walked away with that kind of resources and all along those lines. So it'll be very interesting to see how that plays out as well. And there's definitely cleanup continuing after the death toll only rises to 5 in a Rustic Ridge home explosion. So that was a thing that was going on in a Pittsburgh home explosion. And they are saying that a dad who was 38 and a son who was 12 were among the 5 that were killed in that particular incident. And the 5 divers who went missing off the coast of North Carolina have been rescued. So that is good to see. And all along those lines. And the tropics, we talk about the heat wave. The heat wave is going on for sure. It is definitely some hot weather here in Durham, North Carolina, and other parts of the world as well. Matter of fact, I know our guest is from Texas, and it's probably very hot there as well. But tropics appear to be waking up as the definitely the folks with the weather centers are tracking 2 disturbances in the Atlantic and all in that area. So those could be developing into tropical storms or hurricanes or all along those lines. And one of the presidential candidates is saying that he'd signed a federal ban on abortion after 3 months, that being Robert F. Kennedy Jr. That's what one newspaper is saying. At least that's what NBC has been reporting. But now there are things like even in Fox that are saying that he misunderstood the abortion question and does not support any federal ban. So we'll be following this story to see which way the story goes and whether he is thinking about a ban or no ban or not, because we're getting conflicting reports from the different news medias. And why does that not surprise me in this era of division and all along those lines? And 6 former Mississippi officers are expected to plead guilty on today in the alleged torture of 2 African American men. So we're going to see what happens in that space. And a boy has survived a 100-foot Grand Canyon fall after dodging tourist photos. So he survived after falling 100 feet, and I guess he was trying to avoid getting those shots or having shots taken of him and all along those lines. And Trump criticized a judge in the election case, testing warnings against inflammatory statements. Definitely that is going on as well. So we're going to see how all of these trials are going to play out and in that way and all along those lines. So that's some of the news that I'm seeing on a national level. Let me get to a few world issues, and then I'm going to bring in Ashton and see what they've got to say. I know one of the things they talk about is the nature of being a positive role model. So I'm definitely interested in hearing part of that conversation as well. But Niger's President Mohamed Bazoum is facing high treason charges. And so that is going on in another part of the world. As a matter of fact, the coup leader says that they will prosecute the deposed president. And of course, Niamey residents are calling for peace as tensions are continuing to escalate. And in the area of Argentina, the far-right populist Milei is finishes first in Argentina's presidential primaries. So definitely that is something that is going on, as a lot of the right versus left conversations aren't just taking place in the United States, but around the world as well. And new details are emerging in the lethal mushroom mystery that is gripping Australia. So I'm definitely curious to find out if Shaquille makes it any thoughts that he has about that, because Aaron Patterson admits to lying to police over the fatal Leongatha lunch and all in that space. So that is something that is definitely being the talk of Australia, but the talk of the world as well. And as far as the Ukraine-Russia-China war goes, or the Ukraine-Russia war goes, China is actually not involved directly in the war, but we do have a show that has that title and everything. But definitely Russia has launched an overnight attack on Odessa. And I do know that that is Sasha's home area. So I'm sure that he'll have some thoughts around that, as well as just some thoughts about the continuing the war and all along those lines, because Russian missiles and drones targeted Odessa. So we did see that that was taking place. And Japan faces another typhoon with trains and hundreds of flights being canceled. And speaking of Russia and Ukraine, Danish air forces intercepted a Russian bomber headed to the Dutch NATO airspace. So that is something that was going on as the Russian bombers were flying over the international waters in the Arctic and all in that way. And Russia also fired a warning shot at Black Sea cargo ships headed for Ukraine. So that is something that is going on. So it looks like some of the other nations may be getting pulled into this war as well. And up to 25 people are trapped under a collapsed temple in northern India as they are dealing with heavy rains in that part of the world as well. And the Polish government is planning a referendum asking if voters want thousands of illegal immigrants. So there is a referendum on irregular migration that is taking place. So the whole conversation around migration is taking place not just in the US, but around the world as well. So the referendum to ask the Poles if they support EU imposing thousands of illegal immigrants. So that is something that is going on in that part of the world as well. And North Korean leader Kim has ordered increased missile production ahead of the South Korea US drills. So, like I said, a lot of instability throughout the world and all in the world and all in that kind of space. So, by the way, the China foreign minister has visited Cambodia days after the incumbent premier hands off the job to his son. So in some places, the jobs are handed from family members to family member and all along that line. So definitely that is what is going on. A man was arrested after a Malaysian airplane from Sydney to Kuala Lumpur was first turned around mid-flight. So definitely it looks like there was a mid-air incident, and that's why that particular passenger was arrested and all along those lines. So, like I said, we'll see if folks have other things to say about other world events, because I do see that the Latvia prime minister has announced their resignation, and we definitely see that a record-breaking summit of K2 was dogged by allegations that a Western climber left a Pakistani man there to die. So the Norwegian climber is saying that he did not leave the Pakistani porter to die on K2 and all along those lines. So there are definitely some conversations going around the world about a number of things that are happening. And of course, we'll get to some of those conversations and all along those lines. I did want to give a shout out to a sports incident that took place as well, and all along those lines, that being the fact that I did see that Coach Jimmy Valvano was finally named into the Hall of Fame. So he enjoyed and joined such legends as Tony Parker with the San Antonio Spurs, Dwayne Wade from my alma mater of Marquette, as well as Pau Gasol and Dirk Nowitzki. So definitely it was good to see that after his championship run and of course his fight with against cancer and then in a lot of the cancer research that they have finally got around to naming Jimmy Valvano into the Hall of Fame. So that was good to see. There was also a champion that coached the Aces that was named as well, and that was good to see that Hammond got in also. But just want to give a shout out to Coach the Jimmy Valvano, who is named into the Hall of Fame and all along those lines. Because like I said, the Purdue coach, Gene Kidding, who was a 7-time Big Ten Coach of the Year, and former Texas A&M women's coach, Gary Blair, as well as David Hickson and Gina Bess were some of those that rounded out that inductee class this particular time and all along those lines. So that was just good to see that their names were listed as well. I'm going to bring in a sports person. By the way, it was good to see none other than Jatovi doing his job and all along those lines. But I do have Ashton Smith with me. Ashton Smith is a champion Special Olympics athlete and all in that space. So wanted to have her get a chance to share some of her story as well. I know that she is a swimmer and has done a lot in the swimming community. And Ashton, I know one of the things that when I saw your bio, and we've talked a couple of times on Clubhouse, that you talk about is the importance of being a role model. So I was just wondering, one, what got you into swimming? Because it's not a sport that is oftentimes encouraged. I know that you grew up in Texas. So what got you interested in swimming and wanting to be a swimmer as a member of Team Texas and all along those lines? So just tell us a little bit about what got you into the swimming field.
What got me into swimming was really not seeing people of color do it, especially in the South. You don't see very many Black people swim. In fact, it's like in the entire world, like 2%. not that many of us swim, but swimming is not only fun, but I also realize that it's something that can save your life. You know, if it wasn't for my grandmother giving permission for me to join a team, then, you know, my mother wasn't really a part of my life. But if it wasn't for my grandmother, I wouldn't be able to do a lot of things. My grandmother encouraged me and told me to do swimming. And I think that that has been a really, really, really good idea. I hope to also use swimming, you know, in public speaking to encourage people that they can do anything that they put their mind to. As you can see, there's a picture here behind me that, you know, the Special Olympics used, right, when they, you know, made money off of my image as well. They use images like this, you know, that I did, you know, that I never benefited from. But I think the biggest thing for me is showing people, regardless of those circumstances, that you can overcome those things and make something of yourself. And that's what I have tried to do, despite my disability, despite being told that I should not swim because I'm black, that I should not do certain things because of the color of my skin. Uh, I think that those things are still true today when people, you know, judge folks for being who they want to be. With me being an athlete in the Special Olympics, my family, in all seriousness, has been encouraging, you know, and telling me that you can do anything that you want to do. And in fact, you should be paid for what you do, right? Regardless, because I'm a grown adult now. I've been in the Special Olympics since the 90s. I competed in the World and National Games. The National Games took place in Seattle. The World Games took place in Dubai. I had to literally pay my way. I had to pay for food, hotels, you know, pretty much everything. Uh, and I just think that that's not fair. I think that people like me should be able to get paid in the areas that I would like, such as public speaking. And I also have a book, right? This is my book called Swimming Upstream to Realize the Dream. This is my book. This book also has lessons also on the back that people can learn. I got lighting so that I don't look so dark, you know, on video. But this is absolutely fantastic. This is my book, and I encourage people to go out and get it. Swimming Upstream to Realize the Dream. This is available on Amazon and Walmart, you know, and yes, I want to get my story out in front of more people. I also want to look for things like booking agents, management companies, real companies that, you know, get a percentage of what they make, those types of things, because I'm looking at needing to take care of myself in that way. My mother died. I lost my mom last year. And it's been really difficult. My mother helped me financially, and I don't have that financial support. So public
Because
speaking is a way that I feel that my story can get out there to the masses. I feel
no
that it
doubt
is
about that
important
and
to work
everything.
with.
Actually, one of the things that I know that you have talked about is, and you just alluded to it before, is how you are a role model for the African American community, but also
Yes.
to those that are fellow members of the definitely the differently abled, because I think that that's a better word than disabled, but the differently abled community, and all along those lines and everything. So I just wondered if you could just share a little bit about what your disability is, and also a little bit about how important you think it is to be a role model to those two groups, as well as being a role model to women as well.
Um, you know, being a role model, that's important. Being a role model to women, you know, that's a good idea. I know for me, I'm not gonna lie to people. Uh, it, it's been pretty difficult for me a lot of times to work with women. A lot of times because I'm judged by women so much because the way I dress. But that doesn't stop me from being a role model to anybody, men or women. But African American women need to see people who swim who look like them. Same thing with public speaking. There aren't that many people who look like me. Right, I had entered a contest and there weren't very many people who looked like me. Did I win that contest? No. But I take the advice from that contest that I'm a natural speaker and God gifted me with that. Like I didn't have training speaking. Either you can speak or you can't. And being a role model in that area as well is important telling people that they can do anything that they choose to do and want to do. That's important. Telling people to be around great people, people that's going to encourage you every day and tell you what you need to hear, not necessarily what you want to hear. And I think that that helps people get a long way in this life. And I'm a role model in my community. I participate in marches and things that we have here. I vote politically. I vote. That's something my grandmother told me. No matter who you are, Republican, Democrat, it doesn't matter. People fought for the right for people to vote. I participate in these processes because that is important. And, you're a good citizen for doing that. A lot of people also don't vote. Here in the last election in Texas, enough people don't vote. And that's how come Republicans continue to win, because people here feel like their votes don't count, because they keep saying that they don't vote for that reason. And my generation is in a world of trouble if we don't learn to be a role model in the areas of voting. And we're going to continue to get slammed by Republicans if we don't vote out here in Texas. I can't speak for other states, but here it's a very low turnout when it comes to state and local voting. These areas I feel that are very, very vital, because it shows the next generation that this area is very, very important. Being active in your community is very, very important. And being active in the church is very, very important if you believe in that. I do understand that there are people who don't, and I got it. But for those who do, it is important. And that's another way that you can learn a lot of things, like public speaking is where I learned to do that at the church, right? So then I knew that that could also be another area for me to be able to financially get the things that I need in my life. Not finances as in being greedy, financial as in I want to be financially independent and take care of myself. And there's nothing wrong with saying I don't want to be on welfare. There's nothing wrong with saying I don't want to be on disability, right? Nobody can get mad at a person for saying that they don't want these things. And so I think the biggest role model that I can be is getting off of a lot of the programs that I had to be on. That's another way to be a role model, to show people that you don't have to live on disability all of your life, that the good Lord gives you a talent and a way out. I got a bus stop in my name, right? So there's no complaints over here. This wonderful, wonderful bus stop in my name back here. Absolutely fantastic, and glad to have Trinity Metro working with them on the Adopt a Stop program. So these are real programs that I'm involved in, and I'm grateful for that, in community food banks. So doing all of the right things to be involved in my community, I think that's what people want in their lives, and they want people who are not lazy. And that's one thing I'm not. I worked 18-hour days when I was an athlete in the Special Olympics. I devoted my life, my time. That's a job. And
it's definitely a job. Hey,
so
Ashton, one of the
time,
other things that I know that you have mentioned before, and I definitely want to hear your thoughts about the Special Olympics, and I'm going to bring in some of the other panelists as well, and all along those lines. But one of the things that I know that you went through was that you definitely had a period where you were not at the best in terms of finances. Don't know where you are at this particular time, but there was a time that some of the things that I was reading showed that you were actually living in the area of homelessness. And we do know that that is something that is facing people. And sometimes we're surprised at those that are in that state, because some of them have had tremendous success. And like you said, you had success as a Special Olympian. So if you could just share a little bit about how that transpired and how that came about, and how you even got out of that. It might have been with the aid of your community and the aid of your family, but if you could share a little bit about that story as well.
My success, my success in the Special Olympics, I just say, constructive criticism. There was great success in the program. I was able to achieve as far as awards and what I wanted to win, and medals and that kind of thing. Competing in the World Games and National Games for the first time in my life. That was extraordinary, and I don't take anything away from that, except for to say I have never been to a country like Dubai, right? I'm grateful that I experienced going to a different part of the world, because it helped me open up my mind, even politically. And when I was there, I studied that part of the world. When I was there, I just didn't go to the Special Olympics to play. I also studied that part of the world. and my successes and those types of things brought about. Um, you also wanted me to reflect on some of the financial kind of things that I went through, but the
Yes.
success, putting in the work every day, the hours that I put in every day for to be successful, eating right, nutrition, sleep, all of those things went into making sure that I benefited from all that I did. And I think that is also important to benefit from all that I do, physically, spiritually, or what have you. That's something that can make you successful if you believe in spiritual type stuff. Uh, Also, for me, there were some setbacks while being an athlete in the Special Olympics. So your constructive criticism, right? There's nothing wrong with constructive criticism. Special Olympics can do better by allowing us to make money. The crux of my story is that I was never allowed to get paid. I was never allowed to do public speaking, be an author, write books, be married, have a boyfriend, own real estate. You're not allowed to do anything to be prosperous in their program. And so their program, because of their rules, they're different from the Paralympics. If you follow me, they're different from the regular Olympics. The regular and Paralympics, they're allowed to get sponsorships and get paid. Special Olympics is the fake Olympics because we're not allowed to get paid. When we come home, nobody knows our names. Everybody knows your name. Remember that song back in the day? Everybody knows your name. No one knew our names when we came home, right? And we didn't benefit from the millions of views that they garnered. My life didn't benefit for that, right? And it's not fair because to this day, I have asked for booking agents, management companies, and people to start signing me because the pandemic is also over. That is what I need in my life. Somebody that understands how to market me. I've done everything else. I've been on ESPN. I've been on NBC5, all of the, major networks brought to you by Special Olympics. My life does not benefit from anything that I do. I can even show you the medals that I won. There are medals up here that that are hanging up that I won while being an athlete in their program. See these medals hanging up, all of these medals, pictures, awards, these are all medals and things that I won while being an athlete in their program. And I did not benefit from any of this that you see financially. A lot of my medals, I had to sell them. I had to get rid of them because I had to pay my bills. I had to sell my medals to live because the Special Olympics does not allow you to live. You're not allowed to go out here and go make a living. You're allowed to go work at a grocery store or have your parents take care of you, but you're not allowed to do anything meaningful like being a public speaker, which can pay $5,000-$10,000 an hour, but I'm not allowed to do that job.
Well,
And so I've done a lot of tasks to this day, even speaking for free, that I don't get paid to go speak, and it's not fair to do all of these things still to this day and get $0 for it.
yeah, and
$0.
along those same lines, and as you see, I brought up Lee and everything, but Lee is very much a proponent of the faith walk and the faith journey, and all along those lines. So I just wondered how important it was faith, because you definitely mentioned church and how the church helped you and everything. So I just wondered
Yeah.
how important was that in your own conversation and in your own success, either as a Special Olympic participant or just in general. I'm going to bring up Jatovi, who is actually a announcer for the sports world of the Durham Bulls and the Hurricanes. So he definitely knows about the athletic mindset and all along those lines, as he has worked with a number of baseball players and all along those lines. And by the way, for those that were wondering earlier when I mentioned the Hammonds, I never gave the first name, but it was Becky Hammon, who was with the Spurs after having a long WNBA career. And apparently they were the first woman to be part of the Spurs organization and all along those lines. So I just want to make that correction in case folks were trying to figure out who is he talking about and all along those lines. So I just wanted to make that correction as I bring up Jatovi, and he may have some thoughts as well and everything, because I know he oftentimes will be doing research, and it was great to see him do his thing as I was watching the game on Saturday and all along those lines. And I'm going to bring up Shaquille, who comes to us from Australia, as well as our usual moderator and all in that space, that being Steve Rao, who is here from Morrisville and all along those lines. But if you could talk about the faith part of the wall, because I do know that faith is a very important part of a lot of people's conversations, no matter what their faith is. Ashton?
Yes. You know, the faith conversation, you had kind of cut out for a minute. The faith conversation, for me, you know, I was not allowed to express that while being an athlete in the Special Olympics. You're not allowed to express religion or much of anything. And for me, that kind of hurt, because there was also a violation of my rights. But, you know, when you live in the South and you're Black, there's really nothing you can say about it. It's kind of like a right to work state here. Faith kept me grounded regardless of the circumstances that I lived under, because I felt that if the Caucasian man was able to believe in the Bible, why couldn't I? And I was told that I was not allowed to do those things. But faith keeps you grounded, because you also know that that is your right under the Constitution to worship. And when I was an athlete in the Special Olympics, I would have a folded up copy of the Constitution in my pocket, because I also knew that their laws didn't supersede government laws. And once I knew that, then I also knew that I had the right to express freedom of choice, meaning the freedom of religion. And that was something for me that I was not going to have taken from me, the right to believe in a God. And so the Special Olympics, it has a lot of work to do with the acceptance of people's religions. The Constitution, regardless if you're a Christian or any of that, it even gives you the right not to worship anything, right? So that's also something that the Constitution gives me. But my grandmother was a big opponent of making sure. She wanted me to be in the church, and she made sure that I was there every Sunday. I bet you that.
Now that makes a lot of sense. I know one thing you just said that probably resonated even with Shaquille and everything is the importance of knowing the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, because actually even on this show, Shaquille has brought up a couple of times his own knowledge of the Constitution and a number of the other things, and he's down there in Australia. I think that I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he is sometimes surprised that when he visits that enough of us don't know what is in the Constitution and everything else, because he has even sometimes presented some of that stuff even on this show. But like I said, I'll let Shaquille speak for himself and all along those lines, and if he's got any questions, or if Lee or Jatovi have any questions as well. But I do know that definitely it has come up in our conversations, the importance of the Constitution and civic responsibility and all along those lines. You kind of alluded to it with voting, but a lot of people don't know the various constitutional amendments and the various bills that are out there that are part of the national dialogue. But it sounds like you even traveled with some of that in your pocket, as you said, Ashton. But Shaquille, Jatovi, Lee, and even Steve, any thoughts as to Ashton's story or any questions that you folks have?
I just want to commend you. First of all, welcome to Pod TV, and commend you for doing, listening to your grandma, swimming, and all that you do. But I don't know if it's any consolation or not, but the pushback that you're getting from mentioning God, religion, the Bible, and the Olympics, it's not restricted to the Olympics. I think that's across the board in the world, sadly, in the world that we live in, whether it's government and certain people, they're just afraid, or it scares them off. They don't want you to talk about that, even if that's what motivates you and speaks to you. And it does to a lot of people.
Okay. Wow. You know what? It's kind of reminded me of the Colin Kaepernick stuff. Even when I was in the Special Olympics, when that happened, I was told not to kneel down. I was told I wasn't allowed to protest or march. So it wasn't just religion. Anything that was not what they wanted, you weren't allowed to do it. And I'm like, but all of these things are my constitutional right to be able to do.
Yeah.
You know, just because I marched in something they didn't like as an organization, that's not their business. And you know, the government let me know that the Special Olympics is not the government. The Special Olympics tried to be an arbiter over my life. Everybody knows what the word arbiter means. That that was very important to mention that, because they tried to take away my rights to be me. I was supposed to just walk around, and even if there was abuse, don't say anything, keep everything in house, and that kind of thing. You know, no, I'm dealing with abuse. I've dealt with an athlete threatening my life in your program. And when I went to the police about it, I was told that I had no right to communicate or interact with police, law enforcement, or attorneys. I'm going to say that one more time. I was told that I was not allowed to interact with police, law enforcement, or attorneys while being an athlete in the Special Olympics. Same thing came to when I had to sign contracts and agreements with them. I was not allowed to take any agreements home to have them reviewed or looked over by attorneys or anybody that's of authority. Was not allowed. That's called coercion. That is also illegal, and that is also called exploitation. That means misrepresentation of use of image. That is a real law in America, where somebody misrepresents you to tell the public, for example, that they're helping you and they're not. Special Olympics told my family and community and other people that the program is to benefit me. It also did not benefit me in any way, shape, or form. And I swore by that in Chapter 7 bankruptcy court. I filed Chapter 7 and filed Special Olympics as the adversary in that case, because it tells a judge that I am not getting paid, that I am indeed being exploited. I've never gotten reimbursed or repaid from anything financially or otherwise, being an athlete in the Special Olympics. And I swore by that in the Dallas Observer. You can Google Ashton Smith Dallas Observer and see that pop up at you. It is a real deal, and the Special Olympics should be federally investigated. That is the truth, because my image was used to make hundreds of millions of dollars that I do not benefit from still today. If that answers your question, I'm still out here looking for people who can book me and manage me regardless of the issues with the Special Olympics. I want to be a paid public speaker. That is honestly what I want to do in my life. And I've gotten paid for some engagements. I'm grateful for that. But it's time to get, you know, real paid speaking engagements and those types of things in my life. I'm almost 40 years old. I got put out of Special Olympics September 18th, 2019. And I was told to never come back. Why? Because I called the police about an athlete threatening harm to me. And so these are the reasons that I am gone from the program, because I chose to speak out against abuse, because I dealt with abuse in the program, physical and mental abuse, while being an athlete in the program. I had a coach talk about putting his hands on me, and I'm a female, and a man talking about putting his hands on me. And that was celebrated in the program. When I spoke up about it, I got in trouble. Isn't that crazy that a man can threaten to harm me or do things to me, but I'm not allowed to talk to anybody about any form of abuse? And that's the crux of my book as well. It talks about my story and what I have been through as an athlete. And these things are going to be dealt with, but everything matters in the law, right? Legalese, everything matters on black and white paper. And so that's why I had to do the bankruptcy stuff, because I'm showing the judge, wait, I'm not 3/5 of a person. I'm a whole person. I told the judge, I'm a human. I'm a human being. And so I'm telling that judge that I have the right to equity. I have the right to America, the right to a dream, the right to make money. Forget being in the right to work state. I have the right to make a living if capable. You even hear Republicans and others talk about folks not being on disability, that they don't want. Okay, cool. Well, I don't want to be on it, right? So anybody that is for people not being on disability, hello, help me get up off of it. Because right now in my life, I have no choice. It's either I'm on disability, or I work jobs that don't pay very well. And I've done very dangerous work, including demolition work. That stuff is very dangerous in 112-degree heat. But I've done it. because you know you have to find the right people that are willing to manage you. And in Texas, we just don't have a lot of support for African American people. They just don't support you here. They don't really want to hire you here. What are you going to do? Nothing. It's a right to work state. They can fire you for being black. You wouldn't know. So what you gonna do about it? So that's the life that I've lived, and that is a life that I'm gonna turn around with hope and vigor and let people know that I'm ready for business. I want to work and I want to get paid for my work, so that I can provide for myself. My parents are no longer here. I also lost my grandmother and my sister, you know, so I'm literally a woman on my own. So it is time to have a career, and I am the age to at the age of 18, you're allowed to make money off of your image. The Supreme Court, guys, look this stuff up. We have the right as athletes, just like when college students fought for the right to get paid. Hello, that's me. I'm well above college age. I'm 40. I have the right to also not have my image used in this manner. This is my image used for somebody else's benefit. But all I get is beautiful decorations that hang up on a wall that I have to sell. That's not how life should be. I shouldn't struggle or have to stand on the side of the road to sell my things. I shouldn't have to beg the public or ask people for multiple jobs because I thought I was living the American dream. I am. No, I'm not. I'm not living the American dream at this time.
Hey, Jacoby, I think Jacoby had a question for you as well.
In terms of
begging people, and I shouldn't be left begging people for jobs or opportunity because my state lacks that. I'm trying to be as clear as I can. Texas lacks opportunities for people like me, and all I've ever wanted in this life is a hand up, not a hand out. So if somebody in this life, amen, here is what I'm telling you, that all I want in this life is a hand up, then, and people are able to give me a career, not a job, because I'm working jobs right now, 2 of them. I want a career. And that is all I've ever wanted, because everybody else around me, they get a career because they have a mommy and a daddy that can go pay for them to go speak. I don't have that. I don't have $1,500 a night to go speak on a stage in Texas. People are paying to speak here. And that is where I lack, is that I don't have $1,500 a night to spend to go speak. My hope is to get management and booking agents in my life. My hope is to prosper from all that I do in the name of God, right? For God, so that I can also be a beacon and hope for other people and help uplift others out of the same poverty that I live in, under bridges with no place to sleep. I've lived like that. And a female in Dallas, Fort Worth at that. 6'3". Thank you, Jesus. Because if I wasn't 6'3", I probably wouldn't be here today. God made me rugged and made me strong for a reason. But it wasn't to endure homelessness and poverty. God made me strong to use my talents to get out of poverty. And the day that I get out of poverty will be the day that I teach people that they don't have to live like that either. So my hope is to work with you guys here on screen to help me in all the endeavors that I want. And my endeavor is to provide hope to people. But you can't provide hope to people when there's very few that are providing hope to you. This is the things I talk about as a public speaker. I want hope in my life and hope given unto me.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Ashton, I think Jacoby had a question for you. I don't know if Shaquille does as well, but Jacoby, go for it.
I've got one running in here yelling my name. But in turn, I mean, you have a story. You have a great story. Oh, Bennett says hello, Mark. You have a great story to spread and a great story to tell. Nature Trail. Nature Trail. Go get Peppa. And it sounds like you have the potential for another book that you could probably even write. Have you ever considered taking your message and pushing that through, say, a streaming service or utilizing YouTube or one of the other?
I do. I mean, I'm all on social media, but it's not verified. And my social media is at the very bottom. I can put my website in here and you guys can actually check out my website. It has all my social media and stuff at the bottom. I don't know enough about social media. I'm disabled. So, and I did not, write my book. Somebody helped me. I had a ghostwriter write my book. I'm grateful for that. But the company that I'm working with that wrote my book, it's been pretty hard to get them to rewrite another one, just simply because it takes money to write books, and that's something that.
Cut out. Hopefully you'll come back and everything. I'll actually get the website up for her as well. Shaquille, any thoughts about the conversation as well as in general? And we'll see if Ashton makes a return trip. You've been listening silently, and I know Steve has as well, but he's off camera. So any thoughts about the conversation so far, or just in general? And like I said, we'll see if Ashton can make a return trip or not along those lines and in that space. Oh, I think she might be back already. Shaquille?
Yeah, sorry about that. But yeah, pick that up. I hope to make another book, but all of that takes money. It's not that I don't want to, but when you're on a fixed income and that kind of thing, yes, my LLC is completed. People in my life do not know how to help me. They do not know how to write business plans. The ones that do, you have to pay them, and that's life. And right now, that's why I'm not succeeding, because I'm not a business plan writer. I'm not a management company. I'm not a booking agent. I work 18-hour days, and that's not sustainable, right? I can't sit on phones and Clubhouse and all these other apps trying to promote my life. I just can't continue to do that. I have to get in the real world and provide for myself. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Oh, it definitely does. Definitely does.
It's not sustainable. I need booking agents and management companies and people that are willing to hire me, not people that say, well, we don't hire people with disabilities. I get tired of hearing that as well. And that's where I live. I live in a state where they can tell you to your face that they don't hire disabled people, and there's nothing you can do about it, because they just send you a letter saying it's a right to work state. So there you go.
Yeah. Shaquille, any thoughts about the conversation at all along those lines, and any things that you have observed? Like I said, I know that you have definitely talked about the, which Ashton mentioned earlier, the whole notion of civics and how a lot of people in America don't necessarily know the civics as well as some of the other folks that do. And that's something you brought up on numerous shows, but I'd just love to hear your thoughts and anything that you've got to say or any questions that you may have as well.
Well, firstly, I'll just say, I've got a relative who played in the Paralympics in 2000. It's not the same as the Special Olympics, but they're similar. And I was quite disappointed that Qantas, which is our national airlines, like American Airlines for Australia, gave the able-bodied athletes heavily discounted or even free plane tickets to Sydney, and didn't do anything for the Paralympians. So you're already talking about people whose earning capacity is impaired or reduced, and then a national airline couldn't be bothered to maybe extend them a little bit of help to attend the game. So I thought that was pretty disappointing. What happens with the Special Olympic athletes in the United States? Look, I'm not aware of that. Actually, I'm learning from what I'm hearing you say. I can tell you certainly in Australia that they do receive money if they win a medal, and I believe they also receive some other financial benefits throughout the year, but I'm not 100% sure what those benefits are. But what you're describing does not sound like a positive experience, and probably is worthy of some media attention, as well as perhaps some sort of an inquiry, because I don't think that most reasonable people hearing that story would be particularly supportive of an organisation that's acting in that way. So, I certainly think that giving them as much exposure as you can is probably a positive thing to drive change.
Hey, Ashton, I know, she just stepped up, and I know one of the things that she's talked about in the past is what Nick has talked about, which is kind of the amount of money that some of the executives get. So if she comes back, she may have some thoughts around that as well, because I know in our pre-talks that there was some of that conversation as well and everything. So Ashton, you maybe share a little bit about what you learned about the pay of some of the executives compared to the athletes, because I know that's something we've talked about.
It's huge. Over $91 million has been made off of athletes. This is, I believe, globally. You guys can start doing your research because it took heavy research for me. None of us get paid anything. We're your version of modern day slavery. So if you think of prison, Special Olympics is an imaginary prison where if you speak out, things happen to you. Like me, my life was threatened, right? So it is a sad situation when you Google how much executives make in the Special Olympics, whereas it's all a Ponzi scheme. None of the money benefits us as athletes. They say that a percentage goes to facilities, but the rest go to the pockets of the CEOs and staff members. But we're out here running in 110-degree heat. I've seen athletes end up in the hospital. I actually had a concussion as an athlete. They didn't pay any of my medical bills. I have that on record. I also, tore my shoulder while competing in their program as an athlete. Did I benefit from that? No, I did not. They benefit from stuff like these images and pictures and other, images of people, but we are left with nothing. We are left to sell, like, these are the medals that I've won over the decades, right? But I get nothing for them. This is what I sell. This is what I sold, medals like this to pay my bills. And then here's one that talks about their 50th anniversary, right? And they had a book made that I was not featured in, right? But all of those medals are pretty much mainly gold medals for the years that I participated. But do I get anything for all of the work that I've done over the decades? No, I don't. I just get something saying 50th anniversary, and I take these and I sell them because I have to pay my bills. I have to eat. I live in an apartment, right? This is not all bills paid. It costs a lot of money to stay in a beautiful place like this because I'm no longer going to go back to being homeless. If I have to sell everything that I have in the Special Olympics to live, I'm going to do that because I have no choice. My mother died last year. I don't care about medals when I just lost my mother. Like even these t-shirts, stuff like this, I sell them. Why? Because I have to pay bills. It's not about being mean or, oh, you don't know. It's not about me not liking the Special Olympics. I have every right to walk with anger or be upset. But what I have to do is be calm and tell y'all the truth. And the truth is we're exploited. Look up the word exploitation. Look up the word slavery. These are all things that we're told to be quiet about because it'll make the program look bad. And when the Dallas Observer talks about detrimental to their organization, what's detrimental is the fact that lawsuits could be brought against their program. What's detrimental is that the fact that I spoke to the police and I was not supposed to. I didn't break any laws. I did not harm anybody or put my hands on any athlete, yet I was accused of by a white athlete who went to the Special Olympics, told their board of directors that I put my hands on her and I did not. So they believe the white athlete over me and police reports because there was no records of me doing anything. I said, y'all can't accuse me of doing something when I didn't break any federal or state law. I said, I don't care about your rules. I care about federal and state law. And if I didn't break those laws, y'all have no right to govern me. Goodbye. And I told them that. They called the police on me on 3/3/2020. 3/3/2020. I was no longer an athlete. Look that up with the Fort Worth Police Department. I told them, no, everything that y'all have done with the police, that's documented. You can't sit here and say you didn't do that. I said, y'all are friends with the police department with something called the law enforcement torch run. So they use the police to intimidate people because they're friends with them. They tell you, oh, we know where you live at. Special Olympics turned from a gentle organization to a cult. It's like a cult, like the Boy Scouts and stuff. When people are molested or have crimes committed against them, Google Special Olympics Texas Confederate flag. Google that. that comes up in your face. I don't have to sit here and lie to y'all. Y'all can go look this stuff up yourself, right? We're all capable to go Google things, right? And when you look that up, people of color are the ones being harmed out here, like me, like the boy in that article that dealt with being molested, right? I dealt with stuff as well as a child in their program. But at the end of the day, I speak up about it because I feel like I have the ability to speak well. And Special Olympics staff would call me retarded or dumb because they didn't think that I could comprehend anything. Far from the truth. I comprehended the fact that they exploited me and never repaid me.
Yeah, actually, just really quickly, because we're going to wrap up and everything. I know a lot of folks have been listening and watching, and they'll be watching the reruns as well, and they may have some other thoughts, and hopefully they'll reach out to you. The website is going across your website and all along those lines. I don't know if Steve's got any thoughts as a.
No, I'm sorry, I've been so quiet. I want to try to get.
Definitely want to do a.
I want to thank you
as well, but it definitely will be hopefully having you come back on some other shows to share more of the story. But definitely, you've seen some of the folks that have been involved here on Pod TV, and definitely, hopefully, the conversations can continue and all along those lines and all in that space. But Steve, any thoughts as we're getting ready to wrap up? We've definitely.
I'm sorry I couldn't interact very much. I was getting a lot of calls today for work, but thank the guests for coming in. Definitely want to thank you for your work, and we have to value our Constitution. There's a good book called How to Talk to Strangers by Malcolm Gladwell. I'd recommend that. It's all about assumptions we make about strangers and not really trying to understand the perspectives that we wear and have based on our own experiences. Very interesting read. And I'll be gone tomorrow, but I did want to bring up the fact that the Russian ruble is down by 25%. We pray for Hawaii, 93 dead, worst disaster in Hawaiian history, in the history of Hawaii. And continued discussion about Trump. No presidential candidate in a primary has had the lead that he has had and lost the primary elections. So more and more people are saying that he will be the nominee of the Republican Party. And what that means with him on trial and everything is going to be interesting. Rumors that Joe Biden will run again, but I've been hearing from some inside sources that he may not make it to the election given his age. And so there could be a high likelihood Kamala Harris will be running as the presidential nominee, which has many Democrats concerned. So I think things are going to shift around the next few months. We'll see what happens. I don't think the Democrats will nominate Kamala. So will Biden get reelected? And then if he gets reelected, step down, or will he step down before the election and she automatically becomes a president? So we'll see what that means. Based as a political analyst, I think Kamala Harris would lose a general election to Donald Trump. So I think that's the concern the Democrats have, is would she be the right person to run? Her approval rating today is the lowest of any vice president. Not sure why that is, but definitely got to be concerning to the Democrats.
Steve, you have no idea?
Well, with that being said, I think we'll see what happens. But it's been a great week. Looking forward to being back on Wednesday. Tomorrow is Indian Independence Day. Want to wish Indian Americans in India, Indians in India, Indian Americans in the U.S. and around the world as they celebrate the 75th anniversary of the Republic of India today, the world's largest democracy. We'll be bringing in some guests at the end of the week to talk about India. And tomorrow is the North Carolina Digital Summit, so I'll be there talking about technology and with our Secretary of Technology. But thank you all so much. Mark, I'll be back on Wednesday, and Shaquille and everybody, and Chitobi. Good to see you. And thank you, Ashton, for being on the show.
You guys do your research, man, because you're going to, and have your audience Google Ashton Smith Special Olympics. They can find more out about my story. I put my email and other things in the chat. I'll also drop my phone number. So if you folks want to be able to reach out to me, I want to figure out how I can work with you guys, how we can set up a Zoom call to figure out how to get me with booking agencies, companies that understand the pandemic's over. And if I can get on stage and start speaking now that the pandemic's over, that will help me accelerate my career. I'm dropping my phone number here in the chat so that you folks can reach out to me. I just feel so good about finding opportunities. I think you guys are familiar when I say opportunities. That is something that is lacking in my state. So if I can find folks that believe in me and want to book me and that kind of stuff, then I won't have to be selling these. Hopefully I'll be able to sell my voice and be able to speak and continue to get paid that way. Shout out to Tag Talks. That's an agency that I'll be having a speaking engagement with. I'll send you the guys the info from that. So once that is released, I'll share that with you guys. But that's what I have to start doing, is getting on these real stages and start getting my story out that way. What's y'all's thoughts on my story, and how do you guys think you could help me in my endeavors?
Well, like I said, it's definitely getting the word out this way by having you up here on the show is one way. And I'm sure that some of the folks here, as well as some of the folks that are watching, like I said, Nick was not able to make it, but some of the others may be able to share their thoughts and maybe even make some contacts with you. Like I said, I know that Lee has gotten various contacts. I do as well. Jatobi does, and a number of others, so we can continue those conversations off the air and all along those lines, because definitely, as you said, more and more people are getting out and about. I had the pleasure of going to the game with my Marquette fellow alumni here in Durham, and we went to the Bulls game. And Jatobi, it was good seeing that many people out at the game and everything. And I know there've been great crowds lately and all in that space, but it was just good to see that more and more of us are getting out, because as I was telling a friend of mine, I don't know what the attendance was for the game, but just on a eyeball count, I would have guessed that it was somewhere in the neighborhood of multiple thousands, probably about 3,000 or 4,000 at that particular game on Saturday. Does that sound about right there, or everything that's what y'all have been averaging in attendance? Because like I said, I saw a whole lot of folks, and it didn't look like it was a good crowd at the Bulls game on Saturday, and I imagine it was something similar on Sunday, but that was just like in eyeball guesstimate and all in that space. But does that sound like a fair estimate?
No, it was actually really low in terms of your guesstimate. No, we had about 10,000 on Saturday. We averaged close to 6.
Okay. So yeah, like I said, I was just guessing. So 10,000 people, that's a whole lot of folks that were there. So that is a number of folks that are getting out there.
The Dallas Cowboys had people
they're averaging about 6,000. So that means that folks are getting more and more out in the public, which is what I keep telling my friends that are concerned about the pandemic, and not saying that they don't need to be concerned about the pandemic, but we are seeing more and more people getting out and about at large events like that, or large events like the DPAC, which is a performance hall here in the area, and the Carolina Theater actually just concluded a festival that dealt with the LGBT community, because it was actually the Out South Festival, and I'm sure that they had wonderful attendance as well. So it's just good seeing people get out and about and doing things as we are coming more and more out of the pandemic. So I'm glad that my estimate was super low, like I said, because I was just doing a guesstimate. So I have to do better with my guesstimates.
Also, just be cognizant. There is a spike in COVID going on right now. So even while you go out into the big crowds, just be cognizant that there is a spike happening.
Be cognizant, be cautious. And I have seen people that have been wearing the mask even when they have gone to events. I don't know that I saw that many at the ball game, but definitely getting out and about. I have seen people that are aware of that spike that you are referring to and are taking the precautions necessary and all along those lines. And we'll probably talk about that in some upcoming editions as well. Any thoughts, Lee?
No, before I go, I just want to thank Ashton, it was a pleasure meeting you. I love your tenacity, your passion, what have you. God bless you and what you do.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
I appreciate it, and I hope to connect with you guys off air and figure out how to, get me connected with the right people so I can stand on stages and tell my story. And then I hope to get this podcast that I'm on today and get this shared out to people that did not get to watch this. This says live, so I want to get this out and share it with people. But yes, you have my phone number, and figure out how, what's your thoughts? Should I look for people like booking agents now that the pandemic's over? No, that's the last thing I was told that I needed, because I can't book myself. It's been kind of hard to do that. Yeah.
One quick question before we go. What is your specialty sport that you're doing? And when swimming, what do you do?
Well, right now I'm doing public and motivational speaking.
No, I'm sorry. No, in the Paralympics.
When you did the Special Olympics, what was your specialty?
My specialty was in swimming, and I played several sports. I also did track and field, basketball, flag football. I was a multi-sport athlete, but my specialty was swimming.
And it was which races? I think what Lee is asking.
Yes,
was it
that's
the 100
right.
I did the 100-yard butterfly, the backstroke, breaststroke, and the individual medley. I did both those things.
Awesome.
So
Thank
they were
you,
the
sir.
sprints. They were the 100 meters. So you've done mostly the sprint races.
Yes, the sprint races and 200 individual medley. I've done that event. And you know, that's a lot of work, and it takes a lot of fortitude
Training.
and effort to do that. I've had to kind of quit swimming because that really does not pay the bills. So I've had to quit doing that, and actually I go out here and I go work because my LLC right now, I need people who understand business acumen, and I didn't go to school for that. So you need people who can write business plans, electronic press kits, that stuff. And that's why my career right now is not where I want it to be, because I don't know how to do the paperwork on the back end. And that's what's hurting me to be able to get the funding that I need, and even grants for that matter. You have to have people that can write a business plan so I can get the funding that I need. It's kind of hard to manage yourself 18-hour days. That's not sustainable. You
That makes a
can't
lot
do
of sense. We're getting ready to wrap up this show, Ashton, and everything, but definitely I can give you a copy of the link that you can share with others as soon as I hit the end broadcast. So I'll actually put that in the chat and all along those lines. So definitely that is easily done. So we'll do that in the next minute or two and everything. And then we'll continue these conversations maybe on some other shows as well. But definitely I feel that you got a chance to get your message out, and we don't mind helping you share that message. And like Lee said, you've definitely been very tenacious about getting the word out. But we're going to wrap up this particular edition of the World Edition, and we'll be back on tomorrow. I think we have a special guest dealing out of the business community, if I remember correctly. But when I send out the notices, I will send it out to the panel to let them know who the guests will be, and all along those lines. And as you see, Ashton's showing you the book and all along those lines. So definitely be sure to get the book and all along those lines as well. So right now we're going to get out of here, but it's been a great conversation, and we'll be back on Tuesday at 10 o'clock as well. So we'll see you at that time.